All right, Mr. Schmidt and everybody out there, welcome back to the Mystics of Texas. We are delving into another of our series in Marcus Aurelius. This is book 4 of Marcus, and it is also part 9 of our series. I'm glad y'all are here. This has been a wonderful exploration into the Stoic philosophy and really a wonderful guide into how to some practices that could make your life better, easier to understand, and just good overall practice. And we can just delve right in, Mr. Schmidt, if you're ready.
Go for it, sir.
It is, let no act be done without a purpose. Just get you right out of the gate. Don't lollygag is kind of what I got out of it. Make sure that whatever you're doing has some type of meaning. And
that was on the very first notes I have is just that simply that let no act go without a purpose. I was thinking, how many different ways can that be taken? I mean, we're talking about these ordinary acts that we have to fill our day with, like he's mentioned in previous sessions, those normal toil of everyday life. Maybe we should just find a purpose in that. There's something to be added to it. There's some kind of excitement, something you can be planning or prepping for.
Yeah, just having a purpose is ideal. I mean, you can't be a good archer if you don't have anything to aim at.
That is very true.
So, and it is in thy power whenever thou shalt choose to retire into thyself. For nowhere, either with more quiet or more freedom from trouble, does a man retire than into his own soul. And there's a lot to digest with that, but there is no place you can go, to retire except within yourself. I always think of these people that retire and they think it's good in their mind. They build it up. This is going to be this grand thing, I'm going to have all these leisure days and everything's just going to be, rivers of milk and honey, and it just doesn't turn out that way. Same way with a vacation or a holiday. People build this thing up, but and then they go and they carry all their stresses and everything with them, and nothing gets done.
Well, see, there's the difference between a vacation. Ugh. Yeah. I get that word off my tongue. Ugh. And a holiday. Holiday, you don't carry that stuff with you.
That's right. Well, we take our holidays seriously, but the whole point of that is that everything is internalized. You have to have the mindset of whatever it is you want to be, and you have to practice that internally to gain any sort of level of calm and quiet and peace within yourself. That is not a destination.
Yeah, no, you've got to be right with yourself, or things aren't ever going to change, whether you're working or not. It kind of goes back to that old saying, if you do something that you enjoy, you never work a day in your life. It's really the same basic principle. I mean, this retiring thing isn't going to help you out unless your mind's right to be helped out. It's like if you dump a lot of money on somebody, these people that win the lottery, and then it ends up ruining their life because they don't know how to handle money, and they just spend it thinking it's going to make them happy. But, it can't create happiness. You have to create it within yourself. You can buy it. It has a price tag, but you first have to know what makes you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it says, I affirm, not no one else affirms for you, but I affirm that tranquility is nothing else than the good ordering of the mind. And that is important. You have to have good order. You have to be able to practice things in such a way, and whether it's, including logic, critical thinking, patience, tolerance, all of these things go into having a good orderly mind, which in turn should help you on the inside to be more appreciative and less anxiety, more lovable and able to love. Those things. Having a good orderly mind is very important. Let thy principles be brief and fundamental. I do like that. Your principles should be brief. They should not be, as we've alluded to in the Bible, which is so many pages, and it's not brief, and nor does it
give you anything. It doesn't take you anywhere.
right. And that's why one of the reasons why I love the meditations of Marcus Aurelius so much, because really they are brief. This, even though we're stretching it out into this series.
Well, we're only stretching it out into a series because this book is worthy of in-depth discussion. This isn't a read-through that you read in a day, a week, or a month. It's something that you get set on a path, and that's the direction you go down, but you don't know what's at the end, and you can see different things on either side. You know, some of these quotes, like when we get a little bit later down, are really vast, and I had to stop and think for a long time on it. This is not just a read-through book. This is something you sit and meditate on. It is the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. So if a mind as great as his had to stop, think, and meditate on it, you should probably do the same thing.
It is a really wonderful meal that you need to eat slowly to enjoy it. It really is. And like a good fine bottle of wine, you just don't want to lift up the bottle and start chugging. You want to slowly and patiently and lovingly embrace it. Yeah. So let thy principles be brief and fundamental, which as soon as thou shalt recur to them, will be sufficient to cleanse the soul completely and to send thee back free from all discontent with things to do which thou returnest. I like that. It's basically keep things simple. When you go back and revisit them, they should make you feel good. It's basically what he's saying. And men do wrong involuntarily. Well, that is true. Sometimes, some men just can't help it, and some men just enjoy it. And
well, some things that men do, thinking they're doing something good because they like it, it might not be something other people like or enjoy. So, the old saying, the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions.
Sure.
Or just like a lot of things, like we have talked about, where does the line of good and evil lie? It depends on perspective.
Right, and then what is involuntary versus voluntary? Do you not conform with the nation that you live in because you fundamentally disagree on spiritual and religious beliefs that you should not use your efforts to go fund things you don't believe in? I mean, it is a choice, but is it really? Because then you have to forfeit your life and then everything else concerned with your loved ones. I don't know. It's a big deal.
There's a lot of accidental things that just happen. And one of the accidental things that I think of happening is the go back to Frick. At the turn of the century, during the Gilded Age, he had that big country club up there, and he wanted to build the lake up, and they built the dam up, and he wanted to make it wider for his cart to go down. Well, he ended up weakening the structural integrity of the dam, and it bust, and it killed a bunch of people. Probably that was an unintentional move. He just wanted to make it wider for his guest that lived at the top. So, I can see the world being changed in a lot of ways by unintentional moves.
Yeah, well, it is for sure. And consider how many already, after mutual enmity, suspicion, hatred, and fighting, have been stretched dead, reduced to ashes, and be quiet at last. That is so true. Just what you talked about with Frick. He inadvertently caused harm to untold amount of people, and that's just the way it is. Consider then further that the mind mingles not with the breath, whether moving gently or violently. I love that. That the mind mingles not with the breath. Yes, that's just wonderful. See how soon everything is forgotten.
I really, because we've reading this in tandem with our other works on the Bible, and we just finished Ecclesiastes, and the whole basic principle of that book is everything is vapor. So when I'm reading this from Marcus Aurelius, that the mind is not vapor, it really brought me to bring those two works together, and how much more I appreciate this than the other. Like this, to me, is a level one great mind philosophy, where to me Ecclesiastes was like a C-list movie, you know. So that was just my take on it, and I like that where he says that, and then he's going to keep expounding upon that principle as we go on.
Yeah, I think it's great. I have a note in the side here that this is something when you're stressed or confronted with tragic events. These meditations, especially in book 4, they personally have helped me in tragedies that I still deal with, and it helps to know and to contemplate and to realize that no matter what we lose or what we gain, everything will soon be forgotten anyway. My tragedies, your tragedies, everybody's tragedies. In 100 years, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to remember, including myself.
Oh, yeah.
And so you just try to figure out the best way to live your life. And this is part of some of the principles that can help guide us. It says, I love this, that our perturbations come only from the opinion which is within. Our opinions, especially, sometimes it's good to get outside opinions, especially from specialists in different areas, and then even more opinions from different specialists in that same field. But the point is to really value your own opinion, your own ability to think. How is it inside of you?
Well, I would almost disagree with that for the lay person, because I think you need to cultivate your own decisions on the matter and do your own research, where you can at least have something of what these experts are talking about. Because, like, if you look at the way we've been running the last 2 years all around the world, there's so-called experts that aren't much of an expert. So if you just blindly, listen to their opinion and you formulate your own opinion, well, that's not necessarily an expert. There's a lot of people that are not experts out there that are deemed to be experts by governments or other scientists, and they're pushing some other agenda that you don't know about. So I would hazard on that.
Well, you're exactly right on that. What I was saying, to make it even more clear, is that when you get expert opinions in a particular field, get more than just the one expert. Get a whole wide variety of opinions on that one particular subject to filter it out for yourself.
Gotcha. Then we make our own decisions.
Yes. And rely on yourself. And it says here from old Marcus, life is an opinion.
It really is. How many times have we thought about, if you're having a bad day, just turning and making yourself smile, how quickly that can change the whole course of your day. That upset me, but I start smiling, and it's like, oh, that's not so bad. All right, that was kind of funny. Life is an opinion.
It is an opinion. And this book, to me, it wasn't dark but I could see where some people could see the 4th book of the Meditations being a little dark, because it does talk about the loss, everything is forgotten, and talking about death, which is something that concerns every person that is alive. And death is such as generation is, a mystery of nature, a composition out of the same elements and a decomposition into the same, and altogether not a thing of which any man should be ashamed, for it is not contrary to the nature of a reasonable animal, and not contrary to the reason of our Constitution. And that is very true. The seed, the blueprint that created all humans, all life, also has the blueprint for us to go away, to rise up and to fall away. And so, we should try to look at it as not so much as loss or something to be scared of. It is a natural cycle of life. You can't go through life without dying. So it's an interesting his take on that.
Yeah, I like his take on that. And as we go a little farther, he talks about, as you're dying, a lot of people aren't happy with their lot in the universe as they're dying. And they think, is this all that there is for me? But then he takes a step back, and where I can see where this is a little bit darker, too, that, look at the vast course of time on either end. So you have allegedly this planet is 2-3 billion years old, rolling around our solar system, which is spinning in some kind of galaxy, which is spinning in a cluster of galaxies, in this big thing we call a universe that was made who knows how long ago. I mean, literally, say trillions. But what does a trillion really mean to you when your life is 100 years at max? And you got to think, well, our sun, from what we're told, is still in good shape and good condition and can live on millions, billions of more years. So you have billions of years on this side and billions of years on that side. Well, then you come to when you just look around yourself, well, you think, well, I'm this person in this body placed at this point in time on this continent. I mean, then there's a whole vast of other things that are going on right now. Like, this is happening here, and y'all are watching it at home, but think about what's going on everywhere else in the world. I mean, we're just a small little speck. So this thought and the fear of death, I mean, you really can't fully grasp what life is without contemplating death. Like, it doesn't make any sense. A book has no meaning without an ending. You have to have an ending to make the whole rest of it make sense. And if there is no end to the book, I mean, then the life would be meaningless.
Well, take away thy opinion, and then there is taken away thy complaint. I have been harmed, take away thy complaint. I have been harmed, and the harm is taken away. If you believe you are harmed, you are harmed. If you believe you are not harmed, you are not harmed. It goes to the whole opinion notion that he just wrote about, which is true. Everything is perspective and opinion.
If you don't let something bother you, it won't bother you. It's kind of like, Edward Toohey going up to Howard Rourke. What do you think of me? I don't.
Yeah, I don't. Which is, yes. And a lot of people get bent out of shape over other people and their opinions or their lack of opinion or what they think somebody should be versus what they are or vice versa. I mean, it's just, who cares?
Yeah.
Live and let live. Live and let live. That is my opinion. Do not act as if thou wert going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over thee. While thou liveth, while it is in thy power, be good. And I agree with that. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only to what he does himself, that it may be just and pure. I mean, that is just fantastic. Why worry about what you can't control what your neighbor does? You can't control what anybody does. All you can do is control what you do, how you perceive things. And that goes a great way to have better self-peace by not caring what other people think to a large degree. And he who is vehement desire for posthumous fame does not consider that every one of those who remember him will himself also die very soon. Then again also they have succeeded them, until the whole remembrance shall have been extinguished, as it is transmitted through men who foolishly admire and perish. See, I think of how applicable that is to today's instant fame sort of thing. Instant look at me in social media with all these different TikTok videos, all the various social media. These people want instant recognition for doing nothing in most cases, and who cares? Nobody's going to remember them anyway. I mean, that should be a first thought whenever we do anything. Yeah. Is what I'm doing, is it going to create some type of value to somebody's life? Well, these videos for sure create value for me and you because they help boil down what the essence of our belief system is and what drives our own life. And I think that's why so many of you join us, because these type of conversations that you're engaged in here and other places help formulate your own mind to get where it is that, or put you on the journey to wherever it is you want to end up.
Well, I think a lot of difference between what we're doing and when you say someone off Instagram or TikTok or even some actor trying to get famous is this is our real life spiritual journey that we're just filming and bringing other people along, and we hope that they contribute or just enjoy the conversation and context, and they can carry on and make their lives better. Like, we're not in it for fame or money or anything. We're not getting paid to do this. This is just something that we have done for a long time and we want to continue doing, and we thought that it would be a great idea to have other people join us. Like today, if you can hear a little bit of sound down there, we had a large get together last night, and this place was packed, and that's what we're doing here. People that can't come, we're inviting y'all along for the ride through these services here.
Absolutely. Everything which is any way beautiful is beautiful in itself and terminates in itself, not having praise as part of itself. I just thought of beautiful flowers blooming and then it turns in on itself. It's just the same way with every living creature. We bloom and then we don't.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of was flowers. Same thing.
And I have this one that I just think I wrote in the side note that this was just a nice meditation or a prayer, that everything harmonizes with me, which is harmonious to thee, O universe. Nothing for me is too early nor too late, which is in due time for thee. Everything is fruit to me, which thy seasons bring, O nature. From thee are all things, in thee are all things, to thee all things return. And that's just kind of what we were talking about. You rise up from the earth and you go right back into the earth.
Yeah, and there's no avoiding it. That's what happens. You come from it and you go back to it. No matter how many vaults or concrete pillars you put in, eventually you're going back to the dirt.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we should celebrate. We should celebrate people's lives and not and do our best not to be sad, but it's really difficult sometimes.
I think we should definitely celebrate life and death in this country much differently than we do. I happen to think that when I pass by a cemetery is a complete and utter waste of resources. We are from the earth. We should be put back into the earth. Why, when somebody dies, don't we plant a tree over them and let their body nourish the tree? Then you don't have this vast course of empty real estate that's completely good for nothing. You have to have all these people come in and cut the grass and do things where there's no reason for it. Why would you waste those time, effort, and resources on that when you can just put people back to their natural habitat, back into the earth, and fuel the earth instead of consuming to take what? Somebody's going to drop flowers off at your grave for 20 or 30 years. 100 years from now, nobody cares. Nobody's going to go see that.
And even the person that does it, I mean, why can't you just give flowers and set it on in your house? Well, why do you have to do it? Why can't you have your own memory or whatever ritual you want to do in remembrance of someone? You don't need a specific location to go to.
Well, even if you do have a specific location, like for me, when I'm dead, I would like for someone to dig a hole, throw me in it, and plant a tree on top. Hopefully a seed or a fruit-bearing tree where y'all can reap the rewards of my body. My whole life has been put out, and now I can nourish this tree, which will in turn nourish the future generations.
That's true. On every occasion, a man should ask himself, is this one of the unnecessary things? Now a man should take away not only unnecessary acts, but also unnecessary thoughts, for thus superfluous acts will not follow after. I think that is great, and sometimes that is not so easy because I don't believe that we are not our thoughts, but the thoughts do dictate sometimes where we end up traveling, how we end up feeling, how we end up thinking about certain ideas, and there's a lot of unnecessary thoughts that we could extricate just take away from our mind and focus on other things. I've been working very diligently on that, trying to catch myself whenever I'm drifting off into la la land, wanting to do something that I know has absolutely nothing but a waste of time. Like, it's giving me no value other than tick tock, tick tock. And then I have to start thinking about, okay, what am I missing in this moment? What can I do either to further my just normal daily life routine that has meaning, because I have, there's farm work to do. There's all sorts of, building our sanctuary here, working on all the different forms and functions of how we grow what we are doing here. And sometimes, you can get on these random thoughts or pick up a random subject in the library and just waste some time. And I think that's what he's getting at here.
I don't know if you ever really waste time in a library.
Well,
I mean, anytime you're reading and expanding your mind is probably something good. It's a lot of other things you could be doing that are less,
for sure. For sure.
less everything than being in a library. Being in a library is probably a good spot.
It's not too bad. If he is a stranger to the universe who does not, this is just great. I mean, first of all, how can you be a stranger to the universe? You are the universe.
I think a lot of people are strangers to the universe in a modern day time. They get up in their air-conditioned house and get in their air-conditioned car and drive to their air-conditioned office, and they spend all day on a computer, which is essentially a piece of glass with a light behind it. Then they get off of their job, you get back in their air-conditioned car, back to the air-conditioned house, and then sit in front of another piece of glass with a light behind it. And that's all it is. It's a piece of glass with light behind it. And then while they're looking at that piece of glass with light behind it, they're on this thing that's allegedly a phone. It's a piece of glass with light behind it. And they're doing nothing all day. So I can see how it's very easily for people to not be a part of the universe. They're taken away. And I think a lot of that's obviously by design. We want to keep people from going down this path of meditation and self-exploration. We want to show them, hey, this is life. Don't go out and live it yourself, though. Be concerned about your friend over here on Snapbook or whatever.
Whatever it is, right. It is true. There's a big disconnect with the vast majority of people from the earth and nature and just going out at night and looking up at the stars and in awe and wonder. There's a lot of that just missing, for sure. And so, as he says, if he is a stranger to the universe who does not know what is in it, no less is he a stranger who does not know what is going on in it. He is a runaway who flies from social reason. He is blind, who shuts off the eyes of understanding. He is poor, who has need of another, and has not from himself all things which are useful for life. That's just something you could need to read 5 or 6 times and really think about, because it's true.
Again, it's the essence of this book and why we're doing it. It's things that you need to read and contemplate on. You don't just take this out on one go.
I like it. I like it when he says he has not from himself all things which are useful of life. But hold on, let's see. He is poor who has need of another. And that reminds me of an interview I was listening to with Sad Guru, who was talking about a relationship with your wife or your husband or whoever that you might be in love with, saying not to think of it as, oh, I can't live without you. It's, no, I like you being with me. I like being near you. I like being around you, but I do not need you to live and to function. It's a big difference.
It goes back to our conversation, our video on, is love harmful, and when can love be harmful? Yeah, and sure. You can check that out on our website, and we'd go into that a little bit more in depth about how love can be harmful.
That's true. And in like manner, view also the other epochs of time, just like you were mentioning a little bit ago, the epochs of time and of whole nations, and see how many after great effort soon fell and were resolved into the elements. I mean, that's just so true, because people get into this normalcy bias of just not only their own life, like nothing's going to change, everything's going to be the same. People feel like they're going to be around forever. Other people die, not you. Other bad things happen to those people, not you. Or and it was just kind of crazy. Same thing with your city or state, or oh, this is the way it is. Nothing's going to change here, but it's not true. I mean, nations continue to fall and have fallen throughout history, and that's just what happened.
A good example of nations falling is this book. And Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. When's the last time you heard Rome being a superpower? Yeah. When's the last time Rome was in the news for something? They basically don't exist anymore. They're down to one little town.
Yeah, boy, it sure is a beautiful town.
It is a beautiful town.
It's a fantastic.
And there are some still big things that go on there, but it is not the center of the universe, well, the center of the world as it once was.
Yeah, that is so true. Things soon pass away and become a mere tale, and complete oblivion soon buries them. And that is exactly what we're saying. It does happen to not only us on an individual level, but also on a grand scale. Even the earth one day will either be a billion pieces or something else. Who knows? Examine men's ruling principles, even those of the wise. What kind of things they avoid and what kind they pursue. I like that because if you need some guidance in life, I was fortunate enough to find some really great mentors in my younger life, and it's kind of the same thing. If you don't actually have a mentor, you can examine through other means people that you admire and how you want to live and their thought process and emulate them. You can mirror their actions to a large extent to make that your own.
But also got a little bit more out of that too when he's speaking on that matter. I thought about people and their contradictions, and when you look up to somebody to look at what their contradictions are and to see if there's really any contradictions or are they just putting on a show. One person I can think of in Hollywood was a big conservative, was out there, had a big voice, wanted to run for office, and then all of a sudden the Hollywood shut him down and said, well, this is what's going to happen. They fired him from his TV show. Then he comes out with this huge liberal stance on it. So how do you take that person now? He was a lot of people's hero. And now what is he to you? You got to examine things like that. And there's not just him. There's a lot of other people that this has happened to.
You're right. The poor body is cut, burnt, filled with matter and rottenness. Nevertheless, let the part which forms opinions about these things be quiet. That is, let it judge that nothing is neither bad or good which can happen equally to the bad man and the good. For that which happens equally to him who lives contrary to nature, and to him who lives according to nature, is neither according to nature nor contrary to nature. Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul, and observe how all things have reference to one perception, the perception of this one living being, and how all things act with one movement, and how all things are the cooperating causes of all things which exist. Observe too that the continuous spinning of the thread and the contexture of the web. I just found that fantastic. It really reminded me of a lot of Eastern philosophy.
Yeah, well, they did go in and conquer a lot of those places, or at least sent envoys in, and had a large relationship with India, at least at the time. So they were picking up a lot of Eastern philosophy.
And it rings true, and it's something that we've been writing about and talking about, maybe not so much on videos as yet, but it is true. We are one living, breathing body. I continue to think of all of mankind as we are one, and everybody that we dislike is part of the personality within ourselves we dislike, and all the people that we look at and try not to judge and still think, boy, they got a lot of improving. Then you look at yourself and you go, boy, I got a lot of improving. There's just it's interesting because we're just all on this rock. We're just all on it, and there's no denying it. We all are consumers of the earth, and we're all going to go back into the earth and be consumed by others. It's just the way it works. So I like that Eastern type philosophy. Time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and a violent stream. For as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place, and this will be carried away too. Everything which happens is as familiar and well known as to the rose in spring and the fruit in summer. For such is disease and death, and calamity and treachery, and whatever else delights fools or vexes them. That is just wonderful. It's true. I mean, he's kind of making the same point over and over. This too shall pass.
Yes.
I mean, that's basically what he's saying. And I have on this, the last 2 pages of book 4, this whole section of 3 paragraphs highlighted that are, it's just so good that it's just, everybody, I hope, gets their own copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and digest it on a regular basis. Because if any god told thee that thou shalt die tomorrow, or certainly on the day after tomorrow, thou would not care much whether it was on the 3rd day or on the morrow, unless thou wast in the highest degree mean-spirited. For how small is the difference? So think it in no great thing to die after as many years as thou canst name, than rather dying tomorrow. Think continually how many physicians are dead after often contracting their eyebrows over the sick, and how many astrologers after predicting with great pretensions the death of others, and how many philosophers after endless discourses on death or on immortality. How many heroes after killing thousands, and how many tyrants who have used their power over men's lives in terrible insolence as if they were immortal, and how many cities are entirely dead, so to speak, Hellas, Pompeii, Herculaneum, and other innumerable places. Add to the reckoning all whom thou hast known, one after another. One man after burying another has been laid out dead, and another buries him, and all this is in short time. To conclude, always observe how ephemeral and worthless the human things are. And what was yesterday a little mucus, tomorrow will be a mummy or ashes. Pass then through this little space of time comfortably to nature, and end thy journey in content, just as an olive falls off of the tree when it is ripe, blessing nature who produced it, and thanking the tree on which it grew. That was just so perfect. It was just so wonderful. And this last sentence that I have highlighted here is just reaches in and really helps solidify some of my own thoughts. And this infinity, then what is the difference between him who lives 3 days and him who lives 3 generations? It's true, just kind of like what you said a moment ago about there is so much time in the past, so much time in the future. What does it mean if we lived 3 days, 100 years, or 10,000 years? It is insignificant in the whole broad spectrum of time.
Yeah, it really only matters to you and you alone, which is kind of a weird thought.
Yeah, it's pretty strange. Mr. Schmidt, do you have anything else to add on Marcus?
I do, and what I have to add is just stay tuned for more, because this book does not stop. It started great from sentence 1, just like in this book, sentence 1 was great. Every single sentence is wonderful, and you can get something out of it. And I encourage everyone out there to read it for themselves and to really stop, think, and meditate on what they've read to get the most out of it.
Absolutely. And thank y'all for staying with us this long and getting to the end of book 4 of Marcus Aurelius. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And check us out on mysticsoftexas.com. And same thing of Mystics of Texas on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, a lot of the alternative sites to YouTube. And with that,
And have a good day.